Level 1. El Paro, the lookout. You're 12. The dust of the unpaved streets in Soyapango coats the back of your throat, tasting like crushed brick and diesel exhaust. The ambient temperature is 104 degrees, with a humidity that makes the air feel like a wet, heavy wool blanket over your face. You stand on the corner of a fractured concrete intersection next to an open, untreated sewage drain. You earn exactly $10 a week. You are an El Paro, the absolute lowest rung of the Mara Salvatrucha network. You are a human tripwire. You hold a cheap, cracked prepaid cellular phone hidden inside a crushed potato chip bag. Your only job is to stare at the horizon for 12 hours a day. Flaco sits on an overturned plastic bucket across the street, bouncing a deflated soccer ball off the crumbling cinder block wall. Flaco is 14 and already has a ragged scar running from his ear to his collarbone. "Keep your eyes on the main avenue," Flaco hisses, spitting into the dust. You see them before you hear them. Two dark gray pickup trucks belonging to the PNC, the National Civil Police, heavily armed officers standing in the truck beds wearing black balaclavas. You hit the speed dial button. It rings exactly twice. You hang up. You drop the phone back into the grease-stained bag. The trucks roll past. 2 blocks away in a tin-roofed safe house, 3 older gang members silently move a duffel bag full of stolen handguns and cash over a back fence. You saved their freedom. Nobody comes to thank you. Nobody buys you a meal. You stand in the suffocating heat until the sun drops behind the volcanic mountains. You learn that your life is completely disposable, an early warning system for men who don't even know your last name. The dust permanently settles in your lungs. Level 2. El Chiqueo, the prospect. You're 14. The interior of the abandoned, half-built concrete house smells of raw urine, cheap marijuana, and extreme primal fear. The windows are boarded shut with rotting plywood. This is the initiation. The jump in. You are about to surrender your civilian identity entirely to the beast. You stand in the center of a circle made of 6 older, heavily tattooed men. The rules of MS-13 are ancient, rigid, and absolute. You must endure exactly 13 seconds of a full-force coordinated beating from the entire group. You cannot fight back. You cannot cover your face. You cannot drop to your knees. If you fall, the clock resets. 13 for the Mara, El Diablo whispers. He wears a filthy white tank top and has the letters MS inked across his eyelids. The countdown begins. The first punch is a blindside hook to your left temple. Your vision flashes instantly white. You stumble into the center of the circle and the boots rain down. They are kicking your shins, punching your ribs, driving their knees into your abdomen. Time completely distorts. Every single second expands into an eternity of suffocating, violent pressure. You taste hot, metallic copper in your throat. Blood pours from your nose, soaking your white t-shirt. 9, 10, 11, they shout in unison. A heavy steel-toed boot cracks against your lower floating rib. You hear the bone snap. You lock your knees. You refuse to fall. 13. The violence stops instantly. The men step back, breathing heavily. El Diablo grabs you by the back of your neck, his fingers slick with your own blood, and pulls you into a heavy embrace. "Welcome to the family, homeboy," he rasps. You lean against the rough concrete wall, gasping for air, your eye already swelling shut. You just bought a family with your own blood. The physical pain is temporary. The spiritual contract is permanent. Level 3. El Soldado, the homeboy. You're 16. The jungle ravine on the outskirts of San Salvador is pitch black, illuminated only by the pale light of a half-moon cutting through the thick canopy. The air smells of wet earth and rotting vegetation. You are no longer a prospect. You are a soldier, but to earn the right to ink the sacred letters onto your skin, you have to put in the work. MS-13 does not require you to pull a trigger from a moving car. They require something far more intimate, far more brutal. You hold a rusted 22-inch agricultural machete. The handle is wrapped in electrical tape for grip. Two older homeboys have dragged a terrified, weeping 18-year-old boy from the rival Barrio 18 gang down into the mud of the ravine. The boy's hands are bound with heavy zip ties. He is begging for his mother. Silent tears mix with the mud on his face. Chino stands behind you, smoking a cigarette. The cherry of the cigarette glows bright orange in the dark. "Do it for the click," Chino whispers, devoid of any emotion. You look at the boy. You realize that to survive in this machine, you have to completely sever the part of your brain that processes human empathy. You raise the heavy steel blade above your head. The air whistles over the rusted metal. You bring it down. The sound of the blade connecting is a wet, heavy thud that echoes off the dirt walls of the ravine. You swing again, and again. You do not stop until your arms are completely numb and the crying ceases. You drop the machete into the mud. You look at your hands. They are stained dark red. You feel entirely hollow. You have crossed a psychological event horizon from which there is absolutely no return. You are finally a man of the Mara. Level 4. Misionero/Primera Base. You're 19. The interior of the Route 47 public transit bus smells of diesel fuel and old vinyl. You manage the microeconomy of the neighborhood. You are the collector of La Renta, the systemic, inescapable extortion network that funds the entire gang. MS-13 does not rely primarily on international drug trafficking. They rely on squeezing the working poor for every single cent they have. You wear a crisp white polo shirt and counterfeit Nike sneakers. You walk onto the idling bus. The driver, a 50-year-old man with deep wrinkles and exhausted eyes, physically flinches when you step on board. You don't yell, you don't pull a weapon. You simply hand him a folded piece of white notebook paper. The paper contains a handwritten note demanding $50 a week, accompanied by a crude drawing of the MS-13 devil horns. "The price went up, viejo," you say softly. The driver's hands tremble on the massive steering wheel. He explains that diesel prices are up, that his daughter needs medicine, that he barely takes home $10 a day. He is begging you. You stare at him with absolutely dead, unblinking eyes. You lean in so close you can smell the stale coffee on his breath. "If you don't pay by Friday, we will burn this bus to the frame while you're still strapped in the seat," you whisper. You step off the bus. You walk down the crowded street. Nobody looks at you. The local fruit vendors look at the pavement. The system works because the terror is absolute and the consequences are mathematically certain. You aren't a gangster. You are a predatory tax collector. Level 5. Corredor de Válvula. You're 23. The freezing, bitter wind cutting through the bare trees of a suburban park in Long Island, New York, is a brutal contrast to the tropical heat of your childhood. You have been smuggled across 3 international borders to manage a rapidly expanding valvula, a small subclique, operating entirely within the United States. You command 12 undocumented teenagers recruited directly out of the local high school. You use the trauma of their isolation in a new country to mold them into violent foot soldiers. The basement of your rented house is filled with stolen bicycles, flat-screen televisions, and backpacks full of low-grade marijuana. You are enforcing the border of your territory against a local neighborhood gang. One of your newest recruits, a terrified 15-year-old boy, failed to stab a rival who insulted the Mara on social media. You have the boy standing in the center of the dark basement. You hold an aluminum baseball bat. You explain to him, in a calm, almost fatherly tone, that the Mara does not tolerate weakness. You tell him that hesitation invites destruction. You swing the bat directly into his left knee. He collapses, screaming in agony. You order 2 other teenagers to drag him into a closet and lock the door. Let him think about his commitment, you tell them. You sit on a thrift store sofa, counting a stack of $20 bills. You are a predator feeding on displaced youth, building a violent empire in the shadow of American suburbs. The American dream is just another territory to extort. Before we go further, if you've made it this far, comment what career you want to see next. Hit that like button right now and subscribe. We upload 6 videos over a 6-day period. Level 6. Palabrero. Click shot caller. You're 27. The dim, flickering light of a single bulb illuminates the graffiti-covered walls of an abandoned auto body shop in Los Angeles. You are the Palabrero, the absolute voice and shot caller of a massive, heavily armed clique boasting 60 members. You are fully initiated, with the letters MS tattooed in Gothic script across your neck and collarbone. You hold the power of life and death over every single person in the room. Tonight, you are conducting a masa, a mandatory clique meeting. A heavily folded tiny piece of paper, a huila, kite, smuggled out of the county jail inside the sole of a shoe, has been handed to you. You unfold it carefully. The message is encrypted in gang slang. It confirms that a 19-year-old female associate in your clique was seen speaking to an LAPD gang unit detective in a parking lot. She is standing in the corner of the room, looking down, chewing her lip nervously. She has a 2-year-old son at home. You look at her. You look at the paper. In the Mara, there is no trial. There is no defense attorney. There is only la luz verde, the green light, the authorization to kill. You don't scream, you don't show anger. You slowly strike a match, light the piece of paper on fire, and drop it onto the concrete floor. You look at your top enforcer and nod your head exactly once. The girl starts to scream, but the enforcer covers her mouth and drags her toward a waiting van in the alley. You don't watch them leave. You write the details of the clique's finances in a ledger. Bureaucracy requires blood to keep the ink wet. Level 7. Corredor de Programa. Program Manager. You're 32. The heavy glass table in the VIP room of a clandestine underground casino in Maryland is covered with stacks of bundled cash and dozens of wire transfer receipts. You are a Corredor de Programa, managing multiple distinct cliques across the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. You don't touch machetes anymore. You don't ride in drive-bys. You are a transnational logistics director. Your territory generates $200,000 a month through coordinated extortion, prostitution rings, and local drug taxes. Your primary job is ensuring that 50% of that money is wired directly back to the prison bosses in El Salvador via thousands of untraceable Western Union and MoneyGram transfers sent by civilians. A local clique leader, a man who has been a loyal earner for 3 years, has been holding back 10% of his tributes to buy himself a luxury car. He sits across the glass table from you, sweating profusely, trying to explain his math. You sip a glass of expensive imported rum. You don't threaten him. You simply slide a high-resolution photograph across the table. It is a picture of his mother walking out of a bakery in San Salvador, completely unaware she is being photographed. "The rent is due, brother," you say smoothly. The clique leader turns completely pale. He pushes the keys to his new car across the table. He empties his pockets. He begs for his mother's life. You take the keys. You take the cash. You leave him trembling in the chair. Violence is the tool of the soldier. Leverage is the weapon of the management. Level 8. Ranflero and La Libre, street boss. You're 38. The tinted windows of the armored Toyota Land Cruiser obscure the heavy rain falling on the streets of San Salvador. You were deported from the United States after a federal racketeering conviction. You are now a Ranflero en la Libre, one of the highest-ranking national commanders operating outside the prison system. You are a ghost, moving between heavily guarded safe houses, surrounded by a perimeter of 20 heavily armed sicarios, carrying military-grade assault rifles. You do not deal with street-level extortion. You deal with the sovereign state. You are sitting in the back of the SUV, parked inside an abandoned warehouse. The man sitting across from you is a high-ranking political operative for the ruling government party. He is wearing a tailored suit and wiping sweat from his forehead with a silk handkerchief. The election is in 3 weeks. He needs the Mara to order its 70,000 members and their families to vote for his candidate. He also needs you to enforce a temporary, total drop in the national homicide rate to make the government look successful. In exchange, you demand the transfer of 30 high-ranking gang leaders to lower security prisons, cell phone access, and a total cessation of police raids in your primary territories. You look at the politician, you smile, you shake his hand. You realize that you are no longer just running a street gang. You are running a parallel shadow government that dictates the macroeconomic and political reality of an entire nation. The politicians wear ties, you wear tattoos, but you both speak the exact same language of power. Level 9. Ranflero del Penal, prison boss. You're 45. The overwhelming stench of the Penal de Ciudad Barrios, maximum security prison, hits you like a physical wall. A suffocating mixture of raw sewage, stale sweat, and decaying concrete. You are serving a sentence of 120 years for multiple homicides and racketeering. You are a Ranflero. The government theoretically runs the perimeter of the prison, but the Mara Salvatrucha runs every square inch of the interior. The cell was built to hold 20 men. It currently holds 85. Men sleep in shifts on the concrete floor, packed together like cordwood in the sweltering 105-degree heat. You, however, have a private corner partitioned by bedsheets. You have a fan. You have a smuggled smartphone that costs $5,000 on the prison black market. You manage the transnational empire from a concrete box. You authorize hits in Los Angeles. You manage extortion routes in Washington, D.C., and you order the executions of rival gang members in the cell block next door. A young soldier is brought to your corner. He was caught stealing food from the communal gang supply. The rules are absolute. You look at the boy. You don't yell. You simply nod to the designated verdugo, executioner. The boy is quietly strangled with a braided nylon cord while 60 other men watch in absolute terrifying silence. The body will be carried out to the guards in the morning. You turn back to your smartphone. You type out an encrypted message to a click in New York. You are the absolute king of a concrete hell, ruling an empire of dirt, blood, and misery. The walls keep the police out as much as they keep you in. Level 10. La Ranfla Histórica / Los Apóstoles. You're 55. The absolute crushing silence of the Zacatecoluca super maximum security prison, known as Zacatraz, is completely deafening. The white LED light in the ceiling is never turned off. You are locked in a 6 by 9 foot windowless concrete box for 23 hours and 50 minutes a day. You are the apex. You are one of the historic founders, the original board of directors who built the MS-13 from a ragtag group of immigrant kids in Los Angeles into a transnational paramilitary syndicate that terrified the FBI and overthrew governments. Your face is entirely covered in faded dark green tattoos, a permanent mask of the life you chose. You have no cell phone, you have no visitors, you are not allowed to speak to the guards. Your food is slid through a narrow steel slot in the heavy door. You sit on a metal slab bolted to the wall. You do not think about the millions of dollars in extorted cash. You don't think about the politicians in their tailored suits, or the luxury cars, or the international networks. You stare at the blank white wall. You think about the dust in Soyapango. You think about the heavy machete in the dark ravine. You think about the terrified bus driver. You sit completely alone in the freezing, artificial air, realizing that you spent 40 years slaughtering thousands of people, destroying your own country, and building an empire of pure, unadulterated terror, only to end up exactly where they wanted you. Buried alive in a concrete tomb before your heart even stops beating. You survived the war. You beat the rivals, you conquered the streets, and your reward is an eternity of silence. The Mara consumed the world, and then it consumed you. Quiet was always the inevitable goal. You just didn't realize it at the start.